Muli, magandang araw sa inyong lahat. At ngayon ay pag-uusapan natin ang ating ikalawang aralin, ang kasaysayan ng accounting at ang pangkalahatang pamantayan ng accounting. So, pag-aralan natin ang history ng accounting. The first name that might come to mind when referencing early accounting history is Friar Luca Bartolomeo de Pacioli, an Italian mathematician, Franciscan friar, collaborator with Leonardo da Vinci, who described double-entry bookkeeping in his Summa de Arithmetica, Geometria, Proportioni et Proportionalita in 1494. While that may sound like a long time ago, accounting may have roots that take trace back even earlier. Accounting has been around for centuries. It's a critical part of the business record keeping and life in general. So makikita natin na isang friar o isang pare ang father ng double entry bookkeeping. Siya yung nag-introduce ng ginagamit natin ngayong double entry bookkeeping sa accounting, yung pamamaraan ng pagre-record ng mga information about dun sa taong nagnenegosyo. So, kung gusto niyo maging accountant, tignan nyo kung sino yung sinusundan nyo. Isang monk, isang pare. So, kailangan talaga sa profession na ito, matiisin tayo, matyaga tayo, masipag tayo. Hindi ito, hindi ito trabahong pwedeng kung gusto mo o ayaw mo. Ito yung trabahong kailangan ng dedication mo. Kailangan ng buong panahon mo, isip mo, at pagod mo. Dito mo ilalaan. Kaya kung gusto nyo ng accounting, pag-isipan nyo mo ng mabuti. Hindi ko mo maganda yung maganda yung tunog ng accounting, ting ting, at saka sinasabi ng Guinness Book, World Book of Record na ito yung hardest subject or hardest profession, ay papasukin na natin. Hindi. Kailangan buo yung loob natin. Kasi ang sinusundan natin ay si Friar Luca Bartolomeo de Pacioli, isang pari na nakadevote ang kanyang buhay sa pagre-record ng mga transactions noong kanyang kapanahunan. The earliest accounting records were found over 7,000 years ago among the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia. At that time, people relied on accounting to keep a record of crop and herd growth. They used accounting techniques that are still used today to determine if there was a surplus or shortage after crops were harvested each season. The first record of accounting that occurred thousands of years ago in Mesopotamia has evolved into the intricate element of business and life that is today. So, 7,000 years na pala na nag-exist itong sistema na to. Siguro kasabay ito nung matuto ang tao na makipag-transact sa kanilang kapwa. Noon, kumikita lang yung tao para sa sarili niya. Pero siguro, nagkaroon siya ng excess, natuto siyang makipag-ugnayan sa kanyang kapwa na makipagpalitan. So, wala pa sigurong pera, may accounting na. Kasi kung may barter na, meron ng listahan at may kwentahan. So that was 7,000 years ago. Accounting history during the Roman Empire. During the reign of the Roman Empire, accounting continued to evolve much further. The Deeds of the Divine Augustus is an account of Emperor Augustus' financial dealings. It listed such quantities as distributions to the people, grants of land, building of temples, money to military veterans, religious offerings, and money spent on theatrical shows and gladiator events. This discovery hints at the scope of accounting information available to the emperor, which he then probably used for planning and decision-making purposes. Roman historians also recorded public revenues, the amount of money in the state treasury, taxes, slaves, free men, and more. So, panahon pa ni Augustus Caesar, 'di ba? Natatandaan niyo 'yun sa Bible. Give what is Caesar's and give what is God's. So, panahon pa ni Kristo, nandiyan na yung accounting system. Alam niyo ba yung gladiator? Yun yung naglalaban ng mga tao, no? Friar Luca Pacioli's contribution to the accounting profession. In 1494, Pacioli wrote Summa de Arithmetica Geometrica Proportioni et Proportionalita, which included a 27-page treatise in bookkeeping titled Particulares de Computis et Scripturis, Details of Calculation and Recording, on the subjects of record keeping and double entry accounting. Pacioli's book became the reference text and teaching tool on the subjects of bookkeeping and accounting for the next several hundred years. This was the first time that symbols for plus and minus appeared in printed book. This book was the first known published work on the topic of double-entry bookkeeping. Accounting during Middle Ages. During the Middle Ages, bartering was the primary form of money changing. But when Europe changed to a monetary economy in the 13th century, merchants began relying on bookkeeping to keep a record of multiple transactions. This is when double-entry bookkeeping got its start, which is when a debit and credit value is entered for each transaction by the accountant. Merchants at that time used accounting as a new recording system. It provided them with constant information about their businesses that they could use in decision making to grow their business as they saw fit. This laid the foundation of how we use and understand accounting today. So makikita nyo na napakatagal ng panahon nagsimula ang paggamit ng double entry bookkeeping. Nagsimula sa isang monk na si Friar Luca Pacioli. And later on yun, meron na tayong mga electronic accounting system. So nakita nyo yung proseso. Siguro excited na excited sila nung araw matutunan yung bookkeeping. Kasi noong araw siguro lista nila, single entry lang. Kung ano yung nakuha, yun yung binawas. Pero nung natutunan nila tong double entry bookkeeping, siguro amazed na amazed sila. Wow! Magic! Ilagay mo to sa kaliwa, ilagay mo to sa kanan, pag tinotal mo, balance. Ang ganda. You know, when you study double entry bookkeeping, maganda eh. Yung na-challenge ka kung magbabalanse ka ba o hindi. At pag di ka nagbalanse, anong gagawin mo? Kailangan tama, balansyado lahat ng ginagawa mo. That is the beauty of double entry bookkeeping. So, accounting systems in today's generation. Nowadays, there are accounting standards, auditing regulations, and ethical standards for accountants to follow. Along with this standard is the advancement of technology, and accounting has gone through many changes throughout the ages. Through all the changes, accounting technology has always played a part in making the accountant's job just a little easier. As people's knowledge of technology increased, so has the accountant's ability to analyze statistical values. Technology advancements have enhanced the accountant's ability to interpret data efficiently and effectively. She now, or he or she now, has the ability to interpret the language of business with such ease that the accountant has become a business' most trusted business advisor. So yung technology ngayon, nakakatulong yan maigi sa accountant. Nung araw, abakos lang siguro yung yung tool ng accountant. Tapos nililisan nila siguro sa mga puno o sa mga dahon ng puno yung mga records nila. Pero nagkaroon na ng papel, nagkaroon na ng ballpen, so yun yung pantulong sa mga accountant na ilista ng mas maayos. Nagkaroon ng libro. So pagkatapos magkaroon ng libro, nagkaroon na yan ng mga calculator. Typewriter muna nung araw, wala pang computer. Meron kami nung araw na computer, ang laki, kasing laki ng refrigerator. Ganun kalaki ang computer nung araw. Ngayon, maliliit na. Pero nung nag-aaral ako, ang laki ng aming computer. Tapos, kuryente ka pa pagpindot mo maswerte kayo ngayon, meron na kayong mga technology. Noon, typewriter pa ginagamit. Sa typewriter, pag nagkamali ka, magbubura ka pa. Dami mong buburahin. Kung gusto mo maraming kopya, maglalagay ka maraming carbon paper para ma-duplicate mo yung ginagawa mo. At pag nagkamali ka dun sa isa, buburahin mo lahat, pati lahat ng carbon paper. Mas matrabaho nung araw. Simple, pero matrabaho. Pero ngayon, matrabaho pa rin. Madali nga lang, mga dipindot-pindot, pero matrabaho pa rin. Parang utak mo, andar pa rin ang andar. So, pareho lang. Nag-iiba lang yung itsura ng mga ginagamit ng tao. Parang from Stone Age to this generation, nababago lang. Pero pare-pareho rin may mga difficulties. Accountants were pushed towards acquiring new skills due to the advancement that information technology has made on the accounting industry. Accountants now have to have a high level of computer and technical skills. These skills have become part of the knowledge and abilities of the accounting professionals. In its report, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants cites that the knowledge, skills, and abilities necessary for the entry level accountant now include the application and integration of information technology into the accounting process, as well as financial and managerial accounting principles. From this research, not only does an accountant need to have a broad range of accounting knowledge and a strong ability to apply accounting principles, government regulations, and interpretation of tax laws. They must also have strong skills in information technology to be able to merge accounting with information systems. These accountants will be in greater demand by the profession. So ngayon, hindi na um, hindi na simple yung mga kagamitan, hindi na rin simple yung, although madali kasi nandiyan na lahat, pero yung mga pangangailangan from an accountant, dumadami na rin. Kailangan maunawaan din niya yung information technology. Meron siyang information, hindi siya marunong gumamit ng technology. Hindi, baliwala rin yung information niya. So, you learn accounting system, ito yung technology. Mag-i-embrace kaya. Katulad namin nung panahon namin, manual yung accounting. Gumagamit ng libro na yung libro talaga, papel. Pero ngayon meron ng mga operating accounting system na sa computer na diretso. Hindi mo na kailangang isulat sa libro na nakabookbind. Yung libro nila, nasa Excel or sa Word document, nasa computer na, nakapasok na lahat sa computer. Tapos pag may isang ginawa ka, lahat na ng records noon, lahat na ng libro. Kasi sa accounting may dalawa tayong libro journal and ledger. Tapos yung mga ledger, yung journal, meron pa yung special journal. Yung mga ledger, meron pa yung subsidiary ledgers at control ledgers na tinatawag, general ledger. So, pag merong system ka ng accounting, pag input mo ng data sa journal mo, pasok na siya kaagad automatic lahat dun sa libro na kailangan niyang pasukan. Kung papasok ba siya sa special journals or sa ledgers and subsidiary ledgers. Diretso na. Hindi katulad kung manual yan, magsisimula ka sa journal entry, then posting to the ledger, tsaka ka palang makakagawa ng unadjusted trial balance mo. Pero sa sistema ngayon, pag dahil computerized na nga lahat, isang entrada mo lang, hanggang financial statements, nandun na yung data na pinasok mo. So, marami kayong matututunan at matutuklasan sa accounting. It is an amazing journey. An amazing journey. So, you will enjoy. Basta open-minded lang kayo na matuto. Huwag niyo i-close yung utak niyo sa pag-aaral ng accounting. Kasi dito, habang nilalawakan niyo yung pang-unawa niyo, mas lalo kayong tatalino. Accounting standards in the world and in the Philippines. Financial statements have incredible importance for both internal and external stakeholders. They basically are a report card for the company. Hence, it is important that they are regulated and do not report misleading information. Accounting standards are exceedingly useful because they attempt to standardize and regulate accounting definitions, assumptions, and methods. Because of generally accepted accounting standards, we are able to assume that there is consistency from year to year in the methods used to prepare a company's financial statements. And although variations may exist, we can make reasonably confident conclusions when comparing one company to another, or comparing one company's financial statistics to the statistics for its industry. Over the years, the accounting standards have become more complex because financial transactions have become more complex. So, dito, yung financial statements natin, paano ba tayo gagawa? Yung sa gusto lang ba nating pamamaraan? O trip natin ganito isulat ito, ganito natin susulat. Hindi pwede. Meron tayong tinatawag na accounting standards. So, yung accounting standards na yun yung, magde-debit tayo, magke-credit tayo. Gagawa tayo ng financial statement. Paano tayo gagawa ng financial statement? So, kailangan alam natin yung mga standards kung paano magre-record ng transaction at kung paano magpre-prepare ng financial statements. Maraming pagbabago sa standards kasi yung transaction ng mga tao ay nagiging complex o mahirap o maraming sanga-sanga. Hindi na katulad ng araw na simple lang. Nung araw, cash basis lang yung accounting. Kung nagbenta ka cash, tumanggap ka ng cash. Bumili ka cash. Naglabas ka ng cash. So at the end of the day, kapag may natirang cash sa'yo, kumita ka. Pag walang natirang cash sa'yo, nalugi ka. Kasi ang basihan ng pagre-record mo ay cash. Pero ngayon, meron tayo sa generally accepted accounting principle na accrual basis. So, wala pa yung pera, kinoconsider mo na siyang income. Hindi mo pa nababayaran, kinoconsider mo na siyang expense. So, yung ganong klaseng pagbabago sa mga transaksyon, yun din yung nagbibigay ng medyo complexity sa pag-aaral natin ng accounting. Okay. Paano ba gagawin natin yung financial statement natin? So, meron tayong tinatawag na standards of reporting. Kung paano natin i-record yung mga transaction at kung paano natin gagawin yung mga financial statements natin. Now, ito yung diagram ng organizational structure of the standard setting bodies, which is the IFRS. Ito yung IFRS Foundation. Ang ibig sabihin ng IFRS Foundation, the International Financial Reporting Standards Foundation. It is a not-for-profit international organization responsible for developing a single set of high-quality global accounting standards known as IFRS standards. IFRS standards are set by the IFRS Foundation's standard setting body, which is the IASB. So, yan ang gumagawa ng mga ng mga standards na pinapasunod o ipinapamahagi sa lahat ng bansa, halos lahat ng bansa. 120 countries ang sumusunod sa IFRS Foundation. The monitoring board, ito may monitoring board ba siya? The monitoring board is a group of capital market authorities and provides formal link between the trustees and the public authorities. Ito pala, sorry. The monitoring board is a group of capital market authorities and provides formal link between the trustees. Asan yung trustees? Ito. Between the trustees and the public authorities in order to enhance the public accountability of the IFRS Foundation. So, itong trustees na to, merong monitoring board that approve and oversees the trustees. Itong trustees, ina-appoint nila yung members dito sa IASB. Ito yung board naman na gumagawa, nag-approve ng standards. Tapos itong board na to, meron silang interpretation committee kung paano ba, tama ba yung ginawa nitong mga standards or rules or interpretation. Tapos, ano nila yan, ibibigay sa mga heads of state or sa mga gobyerno ng iba't ibang bansa para i-implement ng bansa nila yung standard, accounting standard na binuo nitong International Accounting Standard Board na to. International Accounting Standards Board. Kasi, kailangan sa buong mundo, pare-pareho yung standards nyo. Kasi kung naiba yung standard mo, kunyari, ibang paraan ng Pilipinas mag-record ng kanyang transaction, tsaka mag-present ng financial statement, kung may mga importation at exportation, paano sila magkakaintindihan? Yung mga processes, kunyari, magbebenta ang mga Pilipino sa mga Amerikano, yung resibo nila, iba itsura, o yung mga ano nila, mga data nila, iba-iba itsura, hindi sila magkakaintindihan. So, kaya tinawag na yung standard pare-pareho. Kung paano ginagawa sa isang bansa, ganun din gagawin sa ibang bansa. So, yung accounting na pag-aaralan nyo dito, dapat nakatugma dun sa accounting ng ibang bansa. Pero kasi, ang Amerika, iba ang tawag nila Tayo, naging under tayo ng American government. So, we use the generally accepted accounting principles. Yun ang sa Amerika, generally accepted accounting principles. Pero ito kasi European country na to, itong IFRS Foundation. It is a European association. Itong trustees nila, mga European countries yan. So, hindi kasama dito ang Amerika. Hindi nagpapamember dito sa IFRS Foundation ang Amerika. May sariling set ng standards ang Amerika. Yun yung tinatawag na generally accepted accounting principles. Tayo ngayon, member tayo nitong IFRS membership na to. Ang ginagamit natin ngayon ay IFRS. So, pero tinatranslate lang natin into Philippine scenarios or Philippine settings and culture. Ina-adjust lang natin ng konti. I-adapt natin yan, tapos gagawa tayo ng Philippine counterpart. Yun yung magiging standard natin. We're going to discuss the American Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. The first accounting standards used in the Philippines were the generally accepted accounting principles of the United States. However, with the convergence of reporting standards, the Philippine Financial Reporting Standards or PFRS and Philippine Accounting Standards or PAS, the new set of accounting standards issued by the Accounting Standards Council are adopted to govern the preparation of financial statements. These standards are patterned after the revised International Reporting Standards or IFRS and International Accounting Standards IAS issued by the International Accounting Standards Board. Yung diniscuss natin kanina na organizational chart. The IFRS is a set of accounting standards that are recognized by at least 120 countries, including the Philippines, and provides a guide on how particular types of transactions and other events should be reported in financial statements. The rationale for using the IFRS is to ensure consistency in recording, recognizing, and measuring financial transactions, which, if followed properly, will ensure stability and transparency throughout the financial reporting process of the company. These standards are not enforceable and compliance is voluntary. So itong standards na to, although ipinapatupad ng International Financial Reporting Standards Board, hindi pa rin siya enforceable. Meaning to say, kapag violate mo yan, hindi ka naman makukulong. Compliance is voluntary. Hindi ini-impose pa yan. Kung magkapakiusapan, ganito gawin nyo para magkaintindihan tayo. But it doesn't mean na kapag hindi nyo yung ginawa, may crime na kayong nagawa. Kaya lang, yung financial reports nyo, hindi na ganun ka-reliable. Kasi naiiba yung standard na ginamit. Unenforceable and compliance is voluntary because the United States is using the generally accepted accounting principles. Ito ngayon yung generally accepted accounting principles na matagal din ginamit ng mga accountants ng Pilipinas. At hanggang ngayon ginagamit natin. Ito pa rin yung pundasyon ng pagre-record natin ng ating mga transactions. Persons doing business in the Philippines must comply with the Philippine Financial Reporting Standards. The PFRS is a set of generally accepted accounting principles issued by the Accounting Standards Council to govern the preparation of financial statements. These standards aim to promote fairness, transparency, and accuracy in financial reporting. To ensure compliance with these standards, it is ideal for the persons doing business in the Philippines to have an accounting manual, process flow, or documentation and recording guidelines. So, ito naman GAAP ng United States, in-embrace din yan ng International Accounting Standards. So, here are the basic generally accepted accounting principles applicable to the businesses. First, economic entity assumption. Second, going concern assumption. Third, time period assumption. Fourth, cost principle. Fifth, full disclosure principle. Sixth, going concern principle. Seventh, matching principle. Eighth, revenue recognition principle. Ninth, materiality. And 10th, conservatism. So, here are the basic na i-discuss natin. Ulitin ko, itong economic entity assumption, going concern assumption, time period assumption, dami assumption ano? Cost principle assumption, cost principle, full disclosure principle, going concern principle, matching principle, revenue recognition principle, materiality, and conservatism. So, marami tayong aayusin dito. Ang dami tayong pag-aaralan dito. Isa-isahin natin. Okay, isa-isahin natin yan. Medyo nagsombrero lang ako. Kasi medyo mainit. Kailangan ko mag-electric fan. At hinahangin yung buhok ko. Change outfit muna. Okay, tuloy tayo sa ating discussion. Economic entity assumption. The accountant keeps all of the business transactions of a sole proprietorship separate from the business owner's personal transactions. For legal purposes, a sole proprietorship and its owner are considered to be one entity, but for accounting purposes, they are considered to be two separate entities. Anong ibig sabihin ng legal purposes and then accounting purposes? So, meron tayong tinatawag na business entity concept or economic entity assumption. Na yung tao, separate sa kanyang hanap buhay. Kunyari ako, professor ako, nagtuturo ako sa PUP. Tapos, meron akong sari-sari store. So, yung sari-sari store ko, separate and distinct sa akin. Yung transaction niya, hindi ko pwedeng i-record as my personal transactions. At yung mga transactions ko, hindi ko naman pwedeng ilagay sa negosyo ko. So, for accounting purposes yun. Kung may problema yung negosyo ko, para sa negosyo ko lang yun. Kung accounting yung problema. Kunyari, bumili ko ng mga paninda ko para sa sari-sari store ko. I-record ko yun saan? Sa record ko bilang professor o sa record ng tindahan? Doon sa record ng tindahan. Kasi yung tindahan may sariling libro. Iba yung, sa ako, meron akong diary. May listahan ako ng mga gastusin ko at saka kinita ko. Pero yung tindahan, may sarili siyang libro kung saan i-record lahat ng kanyang pinamili at kanyang binenta at kanyang mga ginastos. So, hindi ko pwedeng pagsamahin yung dalawang yon. Hindi ko pwedeng yung pera ng tindahan gamitin ko sa personal ko at yung personal ko gamitin ko sa tindahan. Magugulo yun. Masisira yung accounting system ng tindahan. Hindi ko na malalaman kung kumita ako o hindi. So, hindi ko pwedeng pakialaman, may sariling buhay yung negosyo ko. Kapag nailagay ko na yung pera ko dun sa negosyo ko, hindi ko na yung pakikialaman. Pera na yun ang negosyo. Pag pinakailaman ko ang labas ng drawings, binawasan ko yung kapital ko. Hindi ko pwedeng pagsamahin. Pero, pagka kunyari may problema sa batas yung aking negosyo, sangkot ako kasi walang legal, walang separate legal entity. Walang, kahit na pinaghiwalay ng accounting yung aming personality bilang owner at bilang personal independent person, pagdating sa batas, kung may problema yung yung tindahan ko, kunyari hindi rehistrado, makukulong ako o maano ako, makakasuhan ako. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng legal legal entity. So, it is not considered as a separate legal entity. It is only considered as a separate accounting entity. So, tandaan nyo, magkaiba yung legal entity sa accounting entity. Pag accounting entity, ibig sabihin, sa pagre-record ng transactions. Pag sinabi namang legal entity, nandun yun sa rights and obligations, duties. So, magkaiba yon. Pagka yung may kasalanan yung business, at sole proprietorship yan, may kasalanan din yung may-ari. Hindi katulad sa corporation, may kasalanan yung corporation, yung mga stockholders, walang kasalanan doon. Pero na lang, kung yung stockholders, sila yung may direct participation doon sa ginawa ng corporation. Pero kung wala, wala silang doon, wala silang pakialam because there is a separate legal entity between the corporation and the stockholders. Pero sa sole proprietorship, walang separate legal entity. Separate entity for accounting purposes lang. Okay. The second principle is the monetary unit assumption. In the Philippines, economic activity is measured in Philippine pesos, and only transactions that can be expressed in Philippine pesos are recorded. So, we're not going to use this discussion. It does not answer the principle. So, ang principle ng monetary unit assumption is that kung ano yung monetary unit ng bansa kung saan mo ipepresent yung financial information mo or financial reports mo or financial statements mo, yung kung ano yung ginagamit ng bansa na yon as a medium of exchange or monetary unit. So, sa Philippines ka nagnenegosyo at sa Philippine government mo ipepresent ang iyong mga reports or financial statements, therefore, yung gagamitin mo sa presentation mo ng mga financial transactions will be the monetary unit in the Philippines, which is the Philippine peso. Now, kung nasa ibang bansa ka, nasa Amerika ka, hindi mo pwede gamitin peso dun sa Amerika. Dapat gagamitin mo ay dollars. Kung nasa Saudi Arabia ka, anong gagamitin doon? Kayo na sumagot. O, kung nasa Hong Kong ka, anong gagamitin doon? Hong Kong dollars. Kung nasa Japan ka, yen. So, kung ano ang prevailing monetary unit, it is assumed na sa ganun mong unit of measurement, ipepresent yung financial statement. Time period assumption. Medyo madidilim ito palang mga letters dito. Pero babasahin ko na lang para sa inyo. Time period assumption. This accounting principle assumes that it is possible to report the complex and ongoing activities of a business in relatively short, distinct time intervals, such as 5 months, parang malabo masyado. Okay, let's just i-assume natin na time period assumption. Discuss ko na lang. Malabo itong slide na to. So, ang time period assumption, kasi meron tayong tinatawag na going concern assumption. Ang ibig sabihin ng going concern assumption, mamaya pa yung discuss, mahaba yung buhay ng business. Pero, kahit mahabang buhay na yung business niyan, indefinite, hindi mo alam kailan yan mag-e-end, pwede mong i-cut into period yung life na yon. So, you can prepare financial statements. Pwede ka makapag-ulat kahit hindi mo naintahin yung pag-end ng business mo. Kasi minsan magkukwento ka sa dulo na ng buhay ng business mo. Hindi ganon. Kinakat natin yung mahabang buhay ng negosyo natin into months, quarter, semi-annual, or annual period. So, kapag pinuputol natin yung period ng hanap buhay natin, nakakapag-prepare tayo ng financial statements para sa resulta ng operation natin for that period. So, palaging sinasabi sa accounting yan, paulit-ulit na lang yan term na period sa accounting. Anong period yan? Puro period. Monthly, so that is January 1 to 31 period financial statement. O kunyari quarterly, January, February, March. So, January 1 to March 31 financial statement yan. So, yan yung tinatawag na time period assumption. Yung mahabang buhay ng negosyo, hahati-hatiin natin sa maliliit na period para makagawa tayo ng financial statement at makita natin yung result ng operation ng business natin. So, cost principle. From an accountant's point of view, the term cost refers to the amount spent, cash or the cash equivalent, when an item was originally obtained, whether that purchase happened last year or 30 years ago. For this reason, the amounts shown on financial statements are referred as historical cost amounts. Because of this accounting principle, asset amounts are not adjusted upward for inflation. In fact, as a general rule, asset amounts are not adjusted to reflect any type of increase in value. Hence, an asset amount does not reflect the amount of money of a company would receive if it were to sell an asset today's market value. An exception is certain investment in stocks and bonds that are actively traded on a stock exchange. If you want to know the current value of the company's long-term asset, you will not get this information from the company's financial statements. You need to look elsewhere, perhaps to a third-party appraiser. Anong ibig sabihin ng cost principle? Kung magkano mo nabili yung asset mo, ganun mo siya i-record. Dumaan man yung maraming panahon, kahit na tumaas yung halaga ng value ng property mo, eh hindi mo i-adjust yung halaga. Kunyari, bumili ka ng lupa, 100,000 lang yon, 1960. Ngayong 2020, magkano na ang halaga nun? Personal value. Sa BIR, tingnan mo sa zonal valuation nila, magkano halaga nun? Or sa assessor's office, magkano na yung halaga nun? Malaki na siya. Pero hindi natin babaguhin yon. Kung paano natin nilista yon, 1960, ganun mo pa rin yung amount makikita as 1960. So, yung mga values ng asset na binibili natin, hindi natin ini-increase. Ito lang yung exception na sinabi rito. Yung shares of stocks, asset natin yan, marketable securities, ina-adjust natin yon kung magkano ang prevailing price ng stock na yun sa market. Kaya meron tayong tinatawag na stock market. O, magkano ba presyo ng stocks na yan ngayon? Yan yung tinatawag na stock market. Yun, pwede mong itaas yung valuation ng stocks na nabili mo. Pero generally, cost principle, ang ibig sabihin nun, historical cost. Kung magkano mo binili noon, ganun pa rin yan nakalista ngayon sa books of accounts. Full disclosure principle. If certain information is important to an investor or lender using financial statements, that information should be disclosed within the statement or in the notes to the financial statement. It is because of this basic accounting principle that numerous pages of footnotes are often attached to financial statements. For example, the company is named in a lawsuit that demands a significant amount of money. When the financial statements were prepared, it is not clear whether the company will be able to defend itself or whether it might lose the case. As a result of these conditions, and because of the full disclosure principle, the lawsuit will be described in the notes to the financial statements. In compliance with this full disclosure principle, a business usually lists its significant accounting policies first as the first note to its financial statement. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Full disclosure principle. So, ipapabatid mo, disclosure, sasabihin mo, iuulat mo, lahat, kahit na hindi parte ng financial statement mo. Meron tayong tinatawag na notes to the financial statement. It is not written in terms of, in the same manner ng entry ng journal. Hindi siya journal entry, pero note lang siya. Kumbaga, meron kang transaction na hindi mo pwedeng ilagay sa journal book kasi hindi naman siya nakaka-apekto doon sa accounting equation. Kasi sa journal book, isusulat mo lang doon kung ano yung nakaka-apekto doon sa asset is equal to liabilities plus capital. Kung hindi makaka-apekto doon sa equation na yon, hindi mo yun i-record sa books of accounts mo. Pero, itong information na to, sa full disclosure, hindi mo man i-record sa journal mo, gagawin mo siyang notes sa financial statement mo. Kasi makakaapekto ito sa desisyon ng babasa ng financial statements mo. Katulad ng nabanggit na example, lawsuit. Merong kaso yung negosyo. Hindi mo pwedeng entrada yan na debit kaso. Credit asunto. Hindi pwedeng ganon. Hindi mo malalagay kasi wala pang finality ng desisyon. Hindi mo pa alam magkano magagastos mo in damages kung ikaw yung idinidemanda o magkano ang makiklaim mo in damages kung ikaw yung nagdedemanda. So, wala pang epekto sa asset liabilities and capital mo yun. Hindi mo mare-record as a journal entry. Pero kailangan mong i-disclose o iulat based on full disclosure principle in the notes to the financial statement. I hope you get this clear. Na meron kang apat na statements. Income statement, capital statement, balance sheets, and statement of cash flow. Aside from those statements, meron kang tinatawag na notes to financial statement. Dun sa notes to financial statements, yung hindi naging bahagi ng accounting system mo through journalizing and posting to the ledger, pwede mo dong isulat kung ang resulta ng pagbasa nun ay makakaapekto sa desisyon ng taong babasa. Going concern principle, bakit ba ang lalabo nitong nakasulat dito? Hindi ko mabasa. Going concern principle, this accounting principle assumes that a business will continue to exist long enough to carry out its objective. Ito yung diniscuss ko kanina with the period assumption, time period assumption. Ulitin ko nga, this accounting principle assumes that a business will continue to exist long enough to carry out its objectives and commitments and will not liquidate in the foreseeable future if the business financial situation is such that accountant believes that it will not be able to continue on. The accountant is required to disclose this assessment. This going concern principle allows the business to defer some of its prepaid expenses until future accounting periods. Parang ang hirap intindihan. Simplihan na lang natin. Going concern assumption, kunyari, nag-start ka ng business mo, yung business mo, tinatag mo para sa pangmatagalang panahon. Katumbas na ng buhay mo. Kasi hanap buhay mo to eh. Dito nakasalalay ang buhay mo. So kapag, syempre, gusto mo mahaba yung buhay mo, pang matagalan. Hindi ka nagbuhay ngayon, sige, bukas mamamatay na ako. O sa susunod na buwan, mamamatay na ako. Or parang nag-anak ka, o hanggang 10 years ka lang, after 10 years, dead ka na. Hindi pwedeng ganon. Yung going concern principle, tinayo mo yung negosyo para sa mahabang panahon na kakayanin nito. So, unless of course, nagtayo ka ng negosyo para sa panandaliang panahon lang, o katulad yung mga tiyangge-tiyangge, 'di ba? Papasok silang tiyangge o tiyangge sa SM, o may tiyangge-tiyangge tapos out na yan. Yun yung purpose ng negosyo. If it is evident na ganun lang yung purpose niya, then that is not a going concern business. So, dapat dinidisclose siya ng accountant sa kanyang report na, eto, for this purpose lang. Katulad ng mga joint venture na magko-construct ng building, magko-construct tayo ng building, sige, pagkatapos ma-construct ng building na yan, out na tayo dyan. Yung mga one-time business deal lang. May mga ganon. Pero generally, kapag nag-enter ka ng business, ang ina-expect mo, that will be for the longest time na pwede siyang mag-survive. Kaya nga minsan may mga business nalulugi, hindi naman humihinto. Parang buhay lang yan eh, buhay ng tao. Minsan nalulugi ka, minsan hindi ka panalo, pero it doesn't mean that you have to end your life. Life must go on. Katulad sa negosyo, kahit nalulugi yung iba, nagre-report na, bakit pa nyo nagre-report ng nagnenegosyo yan, lugi na. I remember when I was an examiner in Ikalawang City Hall, my lola has a furniture shop. And ino-audit yung libro ng lola ko. Sabi ko, palagi naman talagang lugi ang libro ng lola ko eh. Kasi, ba't anya nagninegosyo pa siya kung lugi naman? Libangan niya yun eh, kasi yung hanap buhay niya ng mga bata pa yung anak niya. Although yung lola ko, yumaman na sila, natira yung tindahan, every morning bumababa siya doon para magtinda. Inaalaw na ng mga anak para magtinda. Kahit lugi. Kasi yun yung alaala niya ng mga bata pa sila. Kaya pagka punta ko sila, uy, ba't ang laki-laki nung ina-assess niyo sa lola ko? Wala namang income yun. Ay, nila maliwala kasi mayaman daw. Yaman nun nung araw pa. Eto ngayon wala namang income tong business niya. Pero tuloy-tuloy kasi yun yung buhay niya eh. Hindi naman ko mo nalulugi hinto mo na. Maraming dahilan bakit pinagpapatuloy mo ang isang hanap buhay. Hindi lang dahil sa kita. Minsan laban mo na yon bilang tao. Gusto mo dito ka kasi dito ka maligaya sa negosyo na to. Kaya tinutuloy-tuloy mo kahit nalulugi ka. Sa buhay ganun din. Hindi naman kung mo successful ka tsaka ka lang mabubuhay. Tapos pag di ka na successful, dead ka na. Extension lang naman ng buhay natin yung ating negosyo. So, life must go on. Ganun ang business. Ganun ang accounting principle. Matching principle. Ang lilit naman ng words. This accounting principle requires companies to use the accrual basis of accounting. The matching principle requires that expenses be matched with revenues. For example, sales commission expense should be reported in the period when sales were made and not reported in the period when commissions were paid. Wages to employees are reported as an expense in the week when the employees work and not in the week when the employees are paid. If a company agrees to give its employees 1% of its 2019 revenues as a bonus on January 15, 2020, the company should report the bonus as an expense in 2019 and the amount unpaid at December 31, 2019 as a liability. The expense is recorded as the sales or revenue are recorded. So, minamatch natin. Imagine niyo na yung accounting system ay para sa buhay ng negosyo ng mahabang panahon. Tapos, yun yung tinatawag na going concern assumption para sa mahabang panahon. Tapos, pinuputol natin into periods. Yun yun sa time period principle. Gagawin natin buwan, quarter, semester, or annual. Ngayon, pag pinutol natin yung yung buhay ng negosyo na yan into periods, dapat dun sa period na yun, nakashoot lahat yung sales and expense for that period. Hindi pwedeng yung sales and expense for this period lalampas dun sa susunod na period. O yung past period, malagay mo sa present period. Ito yung tinatawag na accounting principle na accrual basis also. Yung nire-recognize mo na yung expense kahit hindi mo pa siya nababayaran kapag ginamit mo na. Nire-recognize mo yung income kapag nagkaroon ka na ng karapatang maningil kahit hindi mo pa natatanggap. Kapag nakapag-deliver ka na, meron ka ng karapatang maningil kasi nag-deliver ka na, i-record mo na yung sales as an income. Hindi ko kailangan ka nabayaran. Yung sinasabi ko na nung araw, cash basis ang mga transaction. Kasi mayaman pa ang mundo, walang utangan. Maghanap buhay ka, kikita ka. Ang pinagpaguran mo sa iyo. Walang tamad siguro nung araw, no? Walang pulubi nung araw. Sa totoo lang, nung bata ako, kukunti lang ang pulubi. Pero ngayon, para mas marami pa yung pulubi. Kesa hindi pulubi. Noon, pagka nanghihingi ka, nakakahiya ka. Pero ngayon, pag nanghihingi ka, welcome na welcome ka. Diba? Sa Wawawin, ang dami nanghihingi doon. Sa mga Itbulaga, proud na proud pang nanghihingi ang mga tao ng pera doon. Pero nung araw, hindi ganyan. Mayaman pa ang mundo. Ewan bakit naghirap ang mundo. Ano nga ba dahilan ba't naghirap ang mundo? Ang laki ng utang ng mga tao. Bakit lumaki yung mga utang ng mga tao? Hindi ko rin alam. So, ngayon kasi merong pautangan. Pwede mong gamitin yung malaki yung pautang. So, pagka may utang, accrual basis yun kasi gumagamit ka na, hindi ka pa nagbabayad eh. Nagbebenta ka na, hindi ka pa tumatanggap. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng matching principle. Kung ako nag-deliver na ngayon, panahon na to, sa period na to, i-record ko na lahat na yan as income. Lahat ng expenses para ma-generate o makuha ko yung income na yan, dapat i-record ko rin sa panahon na to. Yan yung ibig sabihin ng matching principle. Maraming intermission. So, naintindihan na ba? Matching principle. Yung revenue mo, ni-record mo ngayong taon, dapat yung expenses ng nakaakibat niyang period na yan, i-record mo rin ngayong taon. Meron tayong tinatawag na period cost at saka product cost. Yung product cost, madali lang din. Kunyari, bumili ko ng bags ngayon, binenta ko ngayon, o di sale ko yan ngayon, kaya natanggap ko yung pera o hindi. Tapos yung cost ng bag, halaga ng bag na yon, naka-attach din dun sa period na yon, kung kailan ko yon binenta. Kumbaga, yung cost of goods sold ko, dapat i-record ko rin kung kailan ko binenta yung bag na yon. Yung period cost kasi, nakapasok na siya sa period. Kunyari, kuryente, ginamit mo ngayon, August 1 to 31, at gumagawa ka ng financial statement from August 1 to 31. So, ipapasok mo yun na period cost. Ginamit mo na eh. Kahit na babayaran mo pa yon sa September. Clear na ba itong matching principle? Isa sa pinakamahirap unawain ito, lalo na kung nagsisimula pa lang kayo mag-aral. Pero later on, maiintindihan nyo rin yan, matching principle na yan, kapag nagjo-journalize na kayo. So, be patient. Alamin niyo yung principle na yan, kasi magjo-journalize kayo, alalahanin nyo sa utak nyo yung mga principle na pinag-aaralan natin ngayon. Kaya natin ito pinag-aaralan kasi sa pag-journalize nyo, tama bang i-record ko tong transaction na to? Noon, babayaran ito sa susunod na buwan pa. O tama ba i-record ko tong transaction na to? Hindi ko pa naman babayaran ngayon. So these are the questions in mind that you have to answer using this principle pag nagjo-journalize na kayo. Okay, ito naman susunod ay revenue recognition principle. Under the accrual basis of accounting as opposed to the cash basis accounting, revenues are recognized as soon as a product has been sold or a service has been performed, regardless of when the money is actually received. Under this basic accounting principle, a company could earn and report 100,000 pesos, 1 million pesos of revenue on its first month of operation, but receive zero in actual cash in that month. For example, if ABC Company completes its service at an agreed price of 50,000, ABC should recognize 50,000 of revenue as soon as its work is done. It does not matter whether the client pays the 50,000 immediately or in 30 days. Do not confuse revenue with receipt. Ito yung matching of cost and revenue principle, tsaka itong revenue recognition principle, parang magkarugtong o parang pareho lang. Matching of revenue principle, cost and revenue, kung kailan mo kinita yung revenue, doon mo din ilalagay yung expense. Ito namang revenue recognition principle, ang tanong, kailan mo ba kinikita? So, kailan ka ba kumikita? Kumikita ka, hindi dun sa panahon na tumanggap ka ng pera. Kasi sa cash basis, ganun eh. Kapag dalawang method kasi of accounting, cash basis at accrual basis. Pero ang generally accepted accounting principle ay accrual basis. Yung cash basis sa mga crop yun eh, sa mga farmers na lang yun ginagamit. Pero sa mga ordinary businesses, accrual basis ang ginagamit. So sa accrual basis, ang revenue recognition yan eh kung kailan ka nagkaroon ng karapatan maningil, eh kailan ka ba nagkakaroon ng karapatang maningil? Eh di, kung kailan mo nagawa yung trabaho o kailan mo na deliver yung goods. So, sa revenue recognition, it is upon delivery of goods or performance of services that you record the revenue. Yung ibig sabihin ng word na recognition, recording. Kailan mo ba i-record sa journal mo yung iyong revenue? Kapag nag-deliver ka na o na-perform mo na yung services mo. Kaya binayaran ka o hindi nung customer mo. Yun lang yung ibig sabihin ng cost revenue recognition principle. Etong materiality, material, it's material. Okay. Because of this basic accounting, ano na lang ako. Kasi itong accounting nakakaantok na topic to kapag puro lesson lang eh. Kaya kailangan may icebreaker tayo eh. We are towards the end of our discussion. So medyo, alam ko inaantok na kayo dyan. Kahit nanonood lang kayo. Because of this materiality, because of this basic accounting principle or guideline, an accountant might be allowed to violate another accounting principle if an amount is insignificant. Professional judgment is needed to decide whether an amount is insignificant or immaterial. An example of an obviously immaterial item is the purchase of a 7,500 worth printer by a highly profitable multi-million peso company. Because the printer will be used for 5 years, the matching principle directs the accountant to expense the cost over the 5-year period. The materiality guideline allows this company to violate the matching principle and to expense the entire cost of 7,500 in the year it is purchased. The justification is that no one would consider it misleading if 7,500 is expensed in the first year instead of 1,500 being expensed in each year of the 5 years that it is used. Because of materiality, financial statements usually show amounts rounded to the nearest hundred, to the nearest thousand, or to the nearest million pesos depending on the size of the company. So, anong ibig sabihin ng materiality? Kung hindi naman makakasira ng opinyon ng babasa yung pag-violate sa isang accounting principle, eh hindi na yun isasama sa reporting. Kumbaga, kunyari, multi-million business nga, yun nga, pinakita. Eh, sa ordinary negosyo, yun, 7,500 din, nakadebit yan sa, sa asset, fixed asset, sa depreciable asset. Printer yan eh. O, sa maliit na negosyo, depreciable asset yan. Eh talaga namang sa negosyo, basta depreciable asset, kuhanin mo yung cost niya, hindi mo kagad gagawin yung expense. I-divide mo pa sa kunyari, yung printer tatagal ng limang taon. Kada taon, magre-recognize ka lang na expense na equal dun sa 1/5 ng value ng printer. Yun yung hindi mo consider na outright expense kagad yung mga depreciable asset. Pero although ito, depreciable asset, dapat dine-depreciate mo, eh kung ganun lang yung halaga kumpara dun sa laki ng negosyo, eh pwede mo na yung debit expense kagad, credit cash, or accounts payable. Kasi hindi naman makakaapekto sa desisyon nung babasa yung 7,500 kung billion-billion yung halaga nung pinag-uusapang negosyo. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng materiality. Significant ba yan o insignificant yan in relation with the size of the business? Kung insignificant, pwede mo na i-violate yung ibang accounting principle. Pero kung significant yan, you have to follow the principle. Conservatism. So, if a situation arises when there are two acceptable alternatives for reporting an item, conservatism directs the accountant to choose an alternative that will result in less net income or less asset amount. Conservatism helps the accountant to break a tie. It does not direct accountants to be conservative. Accountants are expected to be unbiased and objective. The basic accounting principle of conservatism leads accountants to anticipate or disclose losses, but it does not allow a similar action for gains. For example, potential losses from lawsuits will be reported on the financial statements or in the notes, but potential gains will not be reported. Also, an accountant may write inventory down to an amount that is lower than the original cost, but will not write inventory up to an amount higher than the original cost. Accounting standards in the world and in the Philippines. Teka, tapos na pala tayo. Hanggang dun lang tayo. So, burahin natin to. Dito kasali. Parang iba tong nagamit kong slides para sa inyo. Pero anyway, nandito din naman yung topic. Conservatism yung topic natin. Anong ibig sabihin ng conservatism? Sa conservatism kasi, hindi ka kagad nagre-recognize ng gain. Pero yung potential losses, nilalagay mo na kung kailangan. Dun sa full disclosure principle. Kasi, hindi naman katulad ng principle na historical cost, that is conservative. Kahit na ano ng presyo ng lupa mo ngayon, inilalagay mo pa rin sa historical cost, that is a manifestation of conservatism. Ano pa ba? So, basta kung meron kang pagpipilian na itataas mo yung image ng business mo or i-maintain mo na low-key, mas pipiliin mo yung low-key. Ayaw mong yabangan yung financial statements ng business mo. So, sa presentation mo ng financial statement ng business mo, pinapakita mo yung status niya, low-key lang, not necessarily yung humbled na humbled, low-key lang. Ibig sabihin, that is an objective assertion or presentation of what what the business truly is. Parang tao lang yan eh, conservatism. Huwag ka masyadong mayabang. Pakita mo lang kung ano ka. Ngayon, kung may mamimili ka, papakita mo yung magaling ka o hindi ka magaling. Sa gitna ka lang. Kasi hindi rin naman yung magpapa-humble ka ng todo na masira na yung objectivity mo. Pakita mo lang kung ano ka. Yun naman yung yung purpose ng accounting eh. Pakita mo kung ano talaga yung estado ng business. Huwag mo yabangan yung presentation. Kasi meron tayong tinatawag na window dressing. Kaya nga, window dressing is against conservatism. Kasi gusto mong ipakita lang kung ano yung tunay na sitwasyon ng negosyo. Para yung mga taong magtitiwala sa'yo. Eh, hindi na, sa marketing uso yung yabangan kasi you are trying to sell. Pag ginawa mo yan sa accounting, nagbabiolate ka ng principle of conservatism. Kaya yung mga accountants siya, kaya yung mga marketers, magkaaway madalas yan. Kasi yung mga accountants, conservative. Yung mga marketers, aggressive. So, This winds up our discussion for these topics. So, etong susunod nating module ay accounting equation na tayo. Papasok na tayo sa accounting system kasi accounting equation na itong pag-uusapan natin. So, kung nagustuhan nyo itong ating video today, may umextra pa, just like and subscribe. And if possible, i-share nyo sa iba para maunawaan pa nila ng gusto ang accounting. God bless, keep safe, and next lesson will be accounting equation. So, exciting na to, accounting equation na to eh. Until my next video. God bless, keep safe.